One of the things that we can do with data is summarize it with some measures of central tendency. So this is something that I think is just going to be a review. So here we are starting with what is central tendency. It is a measurement that determines a single value that represents the center of the distribution, and you want to be able to summarize your data. The goal is to identify the single value or values that is representative for the entire set of data. Central tendency serves as a descriptive statistics because it allows researchers to describe or present a set of data in a simplified, concise form. It is also possible to compare, right? If we are talking about group 1 and group 2, and we have a mean of the group of 73 and a mean of 82, by knowing this number, we can say, well, group 1 needs more tutoring, group 1 needs more attention, maybe group 1 needs more activities, while group 2 may not need as much tutoring, but maybe activities, and we can give them more attention. So based only on this number, we can take several actions about those groups. The most common one is the mean. The mean is also called the average. And it is the most commonly used. When we calculate the mean, we need numerical values on an interval or on a ratio scale. So for example, what is the mean temperature in San Luis Potosí? We can do that. What is the mean height of students in a group? We can do that because we're talking about an interval or a ratio scale. The mean is obtained by computing the sum or total for the entire set of scores, then dividing the sum by the number of scores. So for example, if we have 10 plus 20 plus 30 plus 40, we add them all up and then we divide them over the total number of data points. So in this case, we would have our mean. So we have 37, so we would have 25. When we change the mean, we can change it by adding or subtracting or multiplying numbers, but we need to know how we are changing that mean. So we can change the mean by discarding some scores or by adding some scores, and that would change the value of the mean. So when you're changing the mean, you have to be super careful as to what you are changing. If a constant value is added to every score, very important, then the same value is added to the mean. So if everybody got extra points, those extra points need to also be added to the mean. If every score, and this is important, that it is every, not some, is multiplied by a constant, you also multiply the constant value of the mean. So you need to be changing every score in order to change the whole mean. Sometimes the mean won't work. Why? Because when the mean works is when we have a symmetrical distribution. That means that our scores are somewhere around here. And in that case, the mean, the median, and the mode will describe our population or our sample exactly. But sometimes we can have skewedness. So skewedness means that your distribution has moved. If you see, we can have a positive skewedness, And in this case, the mode works and it's usually at the middle. The median works, but the mean is not central now. It has changed a little bit because all of the scores are somewhere, the most of the scores are somewhere over here. On the other hand, when we have negative skewedness, the mean goes before the median, which is still very central, or the mode, which is what has been mentioned the most. So just remember that the mean is not always the best measure of central tendency that we have. On the other hand, we have the median. The median is very easy to calculate. You need to order your data points from smallest to largest and then see where the midpoint is. When you're doing the median, you have to put them in order, because then we could use ordinal, interval, or ratio scale. If you see, the mode is whatever was mentioned the most, and it's usually the highest peak in your distribution. The median, one of the advantages is that it is unaffected by extreme scores, because we are going for the middle point. We're not counting the very high numbers or the very low numbers. So that's why the median is usually in the center of the distribution, even if we have very extreme scores. When we have a lot of skewedness, the median is a better measurement than the mean. The mode is the most repeated one. It is the most frequently occurring category or score, and it means it is the peak or the high point of the distribution. The mode can be calculated or can be computed for any variable: nominal, ordinal, interval, or ratio. The primary value of the mode, it is that it's the only measurement of central tendency that we can use in a nominal scale. So we can count how popular the name John is, or we can count how popular the color yellow is, for example. We can have a bimodal distribution. We can have one mode, zero modes, or more than one mode, because we can have different types of scales. If you see this one, we are measuring body weight, average body weight, and of course we need a mode for females and we need a mode for males. But in some cases, we can have no mode. For example, if you were asking favorite color for 5 people, you could have red, yellow, blue, black, and lilac. And in this case, you would have no mode because there is no repeated value in my data set.